Hello, and welcome to episode 8 of the Digital Suffering Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Steven Something.
And I'm PhamtomLimb.
Right, E3 is over, so we're back to the usual grind. First up, we have a game that's piqued both of our interests, The Sinking City. It is a third-person action-adventure sort of thing. Covers the Cthulhu mythos. I spotted this on the Epic Store. Mr. Lim spotted it. You spotted it months ago, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the first trailer, the sort of looping trailer that they put out where he wakes up and then ends up in the same spot, which must be 2-3 months ago.
Yeah. And I saw this and I was like, I was very impressed. I've always had a soft spot for the Cthulhu mythos, even though I've not read that too many of the stories on it. Some of them have been a bit inconsistent, but this one definitely seems to have nailed the madness ideas on the head, especially because a lot of games there've been where they've tried to, show madness, and it's been less than satisfactory. Just some video game madness where it's like, oh look, your head's fallen off. It's like, well, if your head's fallen off, wouldn't you? It would be like your viewpoint would be now like down, not like, oh, I've seen my head on the ground, so my head must have fallen off. It's a kind of like it's too gamified in the way they depict it. Whereas this is obviously like seeing things, and it sort of melds in with the general, the background, where it's like obviously the city itself looks less than normal anyway. Like the scene where he's like shooting at something and then all of a sudden it's gone and he's not even holding his gun, and it's like, whoa. Can you imagine if like you shoot something and you come to your senses and it's not a thing you were shooting, it was a person? Then you're in trouble.
That'd be Tuesday.
Yeah. It's like another day at work. But yeah, it's the visuals for it. It's got that, super creepy. The thing is, it's like, obviously at some parts in the trailer, it's like, none of this is normal. Any kind of sane person would have just left the city screaming at this point. So clearly he's just lost his marbles and
he's rolling with it.
Yeah, he's just like, this is fine. He's that guy sitting in the cafeteria, like burning building, and he's drinking coffee, going, "This is fine," because at this point he's like, I've seen weirder shit than this yesterday, so this is like perfectly normal. All the fish people.
It does blend a sort of realistic tone of a world with a lot of
fantastical elements.
Yeah, like not out and out fantasy, but like odd fantastical things like the green flames, the caves, all of those things, and then obviously the weird creatures and people that he's meeting.
Yeah.
It has and it reminds me, I didn't mention this before we started the cast, but of that game, must be about 8 months old now, Vampire. Very similar graphical style, the sort of dark looming lighting. Yeah. Of
course, in this scene that we're watching, they show what's called the lead character's abilities. He has the ability to sort of like, not precognition, but he can like see the past of what happened in a particular place or what happened to particular people.
Postcognition.
It's
not a thing.
It's precognition. Well, whatever. There is a term for the ability, and I can't remember it off the top of my head. But it's like, since he had this, they explain, one of the developers explained that because he had this ability before he even comes to the city, he's had exposure to supernatural events and situations. So as a result, the fact that he's seeing them here, it's like, to him, it kind of is a normal, because it's something like, I've used my abilities to...
forewarned kind of thing.
I've used my abilities to deal with this in the past. So the fact that this city has kind of freaky shit anyway. It's like, okay.
Well, that's kind of good actually, because in most games, it's the annoying thing about RPGs. You come along, you're this renowned person that starts at level 1 with no gear, and you're supposed to become a legend. And in this case, it might be the fact that he is a seasoned person coming into a new situation, and you're just, starting the story there, more than, becoming this thing. You started off as a boy and now you're a man.
Yeah. Well, that's it. He's already a detective. He's been through the war. He's seen, he's gone through hell. So the fact that he ends up in a kind of like a new hell, it's just like, well, I've seen this sort of stuff before. You can deal with it. There was a game. I'm trying to remember. It was in the GameCube or something that sort of dealt with madness, and I can't remember what the title is now. But in it, you had a sanity meter. It was what the game I was referring to when I said, at one scene you walk into a room and the character's head falls off, and that's it's one of the symptoms of madness. And it's like, if it was you, just seeing your head come off would be kind of weird, because you're kind of supposed to see it from your own perspective, but since it was third person, it's like it doesn't like translate well. But in that game, you had all this thing where you had to deal with the sanity meter, and the more the more less sane you were, the more freaky things would happen, and it would become harder to play purely because you like see things and you're like, is this actually something I can deal with? Can I just ignore it because it's just me being mad, or is it this thing that's running towards me that looks like furniture come to life? Perhaps I should just run away because I am in trouble now. Yeah. Whereas this, you've got, because it's the way it's blended in, you've got things where there are crimes you have to solve, murders and stuff. So there are people out there that are a threat, and if you're not seeing them correctly, you very much have an issue, because you may say, that squid monster thing, I'm just crazy, I'll just ignore it. And it turns out it's not. It's actually a person who's out to kill you. Which means that you've got to take everything seriously, no matter how crazy it is, because you just don't know. And that's quite good.
So you're condoning shoot first, ask questions later?
I have been known to...
If you're in the sinking city only.
Yeah, if you find yourself trapped in a Cthulhu-esque nightmare, then perhaps shooting first might be prudent. It's... each to their own. So I was thinking about the setup of the scenario, and it was like, okay, you got this city that's like sinking, and you have people there, and like, it's like weird shit's happening. It's like, people, why haven't they all left? But then I thought, what about, it's kind of like, if you say, it's like an alternate New Orleans, because you have a natural disaster that causes the city to flood. Some people leave and some people don't. They say, this is my home, I ain't leaving. And that's exactly what you've got here. So despite the fact that just the weirdest, freakiest stuff is happening, people persist and try to continue living, even though, things are broken down and, people have left. So it kind of makes perfect sense. And you say, well, it's set in the sort of mid-1920s. And so you've got to think, well, you can't have like sort of national emergency and have the government sort of send loads of people in, because the infrastructure wasn't as good back then, which means that you can wrangle a whole lot of things that would make it so that you are in a city that's kind of cut off, because a disaster happened, so the roads are cut off and stuff like that. It allows you to have a more contained thing where you can't just have just the government rolls in and just solves the problem for you.
Yeah. But also, I mean, on that note, a game like Silent Hill is sort of mirrors this in a weird way, but has gone to the length of everybody has left the town, except the random crazy.
With the Silent Hill, I mean, the fog mechanic, but it is that you find yourself in the city, but you if you try to leave, you can't. Essentially,
I don't know, but I'm talking about the inhabitants of the city.
Yeah.
You're not a local.
But again, I mean, with the Silent Hill, there is very few people there.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, but it's like it is very much a horror, genre where it's like the only people there are everyone essential to interacting with,
facilitate the story.
Yeah, to facilitate the story, and that's it. Whereas this, it seems you have obviously you got a lot of NPCs that you probably can't talk to or whatever, or they'll just tell you to leave me alone. But the fact that you have a city, you saw some scenes where he's just walking through, and there are people just walking around, minding their own business, which is a much step further than saying, okay, you have the city in this entire city, and him just the guy, and everyone essential, and then it's like,
well, there was a disaster in Silent Hill.
But the fact that there are more than enough people there, because the fact people stay, which I think
that's a sign of the times as well, where the limitations of the game engine and so on, and the machines that it's going to be on, is far better than what it was.
No, I appreciate it because it helps with the world building. That it doesn't feel out of well. There's only like 6 of us here, so one of those guys, one of the other 5 people, has got to be the murderer because that's all the suspects I have.
And then it turns out to be you.
Heavy
I knew
rain.
those blackouts were dangerous.
The Heavy Rain. Have you played that?
No.
It was called. It's like, spoiler alert. You're the perpetrator, but it's like, how do you hide that from the player? It just it doesn't. It seems like you have to do like.
I don't know why I've successfully avoided that game.
The Quantic Dream games. I mean, I've always liked the idea of them, but the problem is that they're just unfortunate victims of the uncanny valley, and that's kind of put me off. I'm sure that as quality goes up again, it's going to be a thing where I'll just say, oh yeah, I'll just play it and not be put off. But the thing, if you see with Heavy Rain, sorry, when they're like talking and it's just like, which is a shame. But
I mean,
they need to do like Unreal Engine 4 remakes.
I was talking to somebody yesterday about nostalgia versus reality, and that whole thing where people will say something that obviously was a highlight at the time, and maybe even change the genre of that type of game, and they look at it with rose-tinted glasses, where they go, it's still the best.
Yeah, they remember the good, but not the bad.
Yeah, and it's like, no, that was 15 years ago. It's been surpassed many times by even the worst examples of the modern version of it, because of XYZ.
Yeah.
And people refuse to see it. And the thing, I've suffered from this personally, where I've gone back to games and I'm like, yeah, I remember this really fondly. It was great to play. And then all I think about are all the flaws. And it sours the memory almost.
I did give that a try. It was called, back in the old years back when emulators were popular.
Oh, yeah.
I sort of said, I could try all these games that I remember playing. And you'd play it and it's like, these are frustrating as heck and poorly balanced and so. I mean, it's what we had at the time. And you'd persist.
Toki!
Toki, yeah. But it was like, I don't need to play this because there is what is out there now is so much better. And I mean, other than trying to complete Mario 64 because I never got anywhere thing. But it's unless there was some kind of achievement to unlock. There's no reason to go back to the games of the past. They are done. Let them live on in nostalgia, but you move on. Enjoy what is out now.
Oh yeah, it's like people like when Mario Sunshine came out, and people were like, "Oh, it's not Mario 64." No, it's Mario 64 and better.
Yeah, but Mario Sunshine was. It was okay, but there was some issues with Mario Sunshine. skip that. Moving swiftly on.
It was probably my favourite of the 3D Mario games.
Really?
Yeah. Super Mario World was obviously my favourite of the 2D.
Okay. Mario 3 was my favourite, and I wanted to try Galaxy, but I didn't get it on the Wii when I had it, because it was just I had Zelda, so I didn't have enough time to put into that.
Fair enough. It was too weird for me.
It was the sort of contained, but I like the idea of the contained worlds, because the fact that they could say, right, this world has these kind of mechanics and stuff, and you could have so much more variety. But yeah, Sunshine, I didn't get on with it. I got through the first, I sort of got lost in the first world, and just put it away and never got back to it. It didn't do me. The Delfinos were just...
Oh, they're as annoying as hell.
They are as annoying as hell. And they are definitely a reason not to play, but...
I'm not saying it's perfect.
No, it's not a thing. I mean, for what it was. But it was like... The problem was Mario 64, it sort of like took the formula, but it sort of say, oh, these maps are much larger. So in order to complete the objective, you had to do a hell of a lot more travelling, and that travelling was not interesting. It was the fact that you had to say, okay, right, collect the 8 red coins, and it was like scattered even further apart. And you had the flood mechanics. But
hideous world design.
The world design was not as interesting. Okay, Mario 64, it was kind of abstract. You got weird blocks and stuff, and it was like thing. But it was set up as a playground. You had...
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, I did not the 128 stars or whatever. I didn't do that, but I, finished the game.
Yeah, I completed just the minimum amount. I was like,
I did a little bit more.
Get me out of here!
I did a little bit more than a minimum, but there was issues that frustrated the hell out of me.
Oh no, the camera.
The camera, I just want
to... Camera! Oh my goodness.
Oh my god,
get me started by the throat and strangle it. How do you like this camera now?
Yeah, we put this thing where you could distort Mario's face at the beginning. I don't give a about that. I just want the camera not to randomly pan when I'm standing in one spot.
You step a little bit and the camera rotates 120 degrees. And now you can't see the platform you wanted to jump to as you were in midair jumping towards it. And you're like...
Absolutely wanted to smash my controller. That was infuriating.
What's it called? Incident. There's with the the furthering of emulations, emulation ROM hacks and stuff. People have done a version of Mario 64. It's called crowd control. So what it is, you hook it up to like Twitch chats, and people if they donate, they can do is they can spawn in weird power-ups or enemies and stuff, or make Mario just weightless, so he flies up to the sky. And so I watched someone streaming it, and they're hundreds of meters in the air, and the camera is doing its best to try and control the situation, because obviously it's starting to bounce up and against the bounds of the world at this point, because Mario's not supposed to be here, and he has to fall and land on something that's not even... You can't see it because the game is not rendering it. It's too far away.
Yeah, draw distance.
And also the camera angle is just weird. And he drifts over a bit. They change weight so he's back to normal, and he just falls and lands exactly where he's supposed to. And they're like, "How do you do that?" And it's just random guess, But the camera obviously has its limitations. But there it was just they might as well have no camera, but he was still coping. Which was fantastic, but yeah, that's as a gameplay thing. Crowd control is just nightmare, because although it's costing them to troll you, they will absolutely troll you.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, shall we move on to the next thing?
Sure. This came to me by way of... I missed it at E3. Apparently, it was there, but it came to me via somebody I follow on Twitter, who's a hip-hop artist, who apparently contributed music to this, and it piqued my interest, and yeah, it looks like an interesting, if not crazy, game.
Looking at the art style for Freedom Finger, it's it feels like what would happen if Monty Python had continued on into the modern era, into the 80s, early 90s. There's sort of the 80s 8-bits, computers and stuff like that. It's got that thing. It's like this thing, but updated,
Yeah.
and it just has that whole zany look. And if someone said, "Oh, this is Monty Python presents Freedom Finger,"
You would totally believe
you would
it.
just absolutely believe them because it has that aesthetic, and it's a very not cute. What's the thing? It's the hand drawn thing. It's what adjective I'm looking for? Not lovely. It just suits it so well.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a couple of different art styles within its own art style, which is kind of strange.
Maybe they had like different artists do different levels, perhaps. So one art team does the direction for one level, and some of the others do the other, perhaps.
Maybe.
But
it reminds me of like what's his name, Crumb, the comic artist.
Okay.
There's a sense of him in there. There's a bit of Ren and Stimpy, the guy who did that. There's a lot of weirdness in here, and then obviously there's an element of it being satirical to a modern era where it's got caricatures of generals and other things.
The modern world politics.
Yes, yeah.
America's policy is to
destroy,
to show the world a finger and then punch it in the face.
Yeah, so there's a couple of interesting mechanics, shall we call them, because you can punch your hand that shoots, but you can punch stuff, you can grab stuff, but mostly giving the finger.
It's like if you got Cuphead and you cut off the hands.
It did remind me a bit of Cuphead.
And you just sent the hands off on their own to do their own thing.
The weirdest bit of this whole trailer, this whole game possibly, is at the end it says available for PC and Mac. When was the last time you saw that?
Mac? Oh yeah, one other thing, it was called Nolan North does one of the voices, and the voice he's doing is of a general, and it sounds exactly like he's doing an impression of Kiefer Sutherland's who did the voice of General Warmonger in the Simpsons episode, and it's like they sound exactly the same, which is just a weird observation.
That was like having sex on the hood of a hot rod. Burned your ass cheeks a little, but in the end, very f***ing cool.
But yeah.
This game's definitely going to have a speed run coming soon. You can just imagine it.
Can you speedrun auto scrollers? It's like because the thing is, your time is you're only limited by the boss, how fast you can defeat the boss, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of them, but there's a whole category.
Because I mean, with Cuphead, although it's a shooter, it's a platformer. So speedrunning that is, I've seen a speedrun of it, and it's like crazy how fast they.
Yeah.
Some of the boss, I love some of the Cuphead. Some of the what's called the final boss. The what's the name? What's the devil he's called? It's not the guy.
I can't remember.
Yeah,
I need to buy that game.
How he attacks with the card and stuff. I love that whole aesthetic. It's absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, hardcore shooter. It's like you're not going to get very far. So it's not for me, unfortunately. Right. The next thing up is GDQ. I've watched a number of the speedruns over the weekend and stuff.
This is kind of like an honourable mention because I've been watching it for a few years now, and it's always proves interesting and fun. But then obviously there's the whole charity thing, which is actually what it's all about.
Yeah.
And they seem to have hit a milestone of $3 million. I'm not sure what that equates to in real currency, but...
What is that in non-freedom currency?
Non-freedom.
Freedom currency. I watched... Most of the stuff I watched for this GDQ was the awful games that they were playing. And it was like... You watch them, and most of the segments are only about 20 minutes long because a lot of the games are just so horribly broken that they're able to sort of do sequence breaks and go out of bounds and stuff in order to complete them faster. And you watch it and you're like, why you played this game so much. Why would you punish yourself with this thing? But someone they're out there. Each game has a person that loves it for whatever reason.
There are the weirdest categories, but it's great. It's great. And it's I mean, twice a year, and it's always the good thing is it's not always for the first couple that I saw, it seemed to be the returning person to do that particular game at which they were specialised. But now it's become more of a, this guy did it this year. Next year it will be turns, a completely different guy who's learned the route and
this person's in the top 5 and that person is the current record holder, and they sort of they've mixed it up again. Shame with a lot of these things. I mean, you see games like there are quite a few runs with some of the Zelda games and stuff, or Dark Souls and things, and you say, oh, I'd love to watch that. And then you look at it and you see that the run takes 2 hours to watch through, and you realise that they are playing it as fast as humanly possible. The normal human would take 5, 6, 7 times as long as that. And you're like, it's only 2 hours, but I can't watch. It's too long for me to sit and watch that. It's a shame.
I've seen some that are 4 hours, and I'll just watch the beginning and then come back periodically throughout the 4 hours.
I remember that sequence.
Yeah, I'll be like, oh yeah.
No, I've watched. I can't remember. Which
and
one.
Usually it's only games like those ones are the ones that I have already played.
The longest one I've sat through is a 3 hour. I can't remember what it was now, but it was a 3 hour one. I've seen I think not Wind Waker. It was maybe one of the Zelda ones, but it was 3 hours long, and it was there's no way I'm going to play this game, but I can watch someone thinking, and just marveling at how they go through it. But obviously, so I can't fully appreciate it because having not played the game, I can't say, oh, that sequence is really hard and all that boss is really difficult, and then they do this technique and they beat it within seconds, and it's but still.
Yeah, I think
I can appreciate.
I think one of the most broken things I've ever seen was, I believe it's called the. I think it's Ocarina of Time, the Deku Stick skip and defeat of Ganondorf, and I think it was 10 minutes long. That's how long it took to beat the game.
Yeah, well, there's so many categories.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Out of bounds. It might not be 10 minutes, but it was amazingly short. It literally cut out 90%. Well, more than 90% of the game. And I understand that would exist because somebody's found it and they capitalised on that.
I remember it was Wind Waker All Dungeons run because I wanted to see what the dungeons were like.
That's a crappy way of.
Well, the thing is, I had Wind Waker, but I only got up to a certain point, and I gave I sort of gave it up. I got Twilight Princess. I got really far in it, but Wind Waker, it was just a bit too slow paced. The problem is, it's oh, okay, you're a little boy, and he sort of gets into the role of the hero, but it's it takes so long to introduce more of the heroic elements that it was just I've been playing this for 3 hours.
I need to revisit that game.
I still haven't, got the sword yet.
I need to revisit them all because I haven't finished a Zelda since Link to the Past.
Link to the Past. Oh, yes, Link to the Past. Did I complete it, or did I, again, get stymied by towards the end? I remember getting almost to the end, because I remember going up to the alternate world, the thing, and you got the boulders coming down.
Mm-hmm.
So I got pretty far, but the SNES era is a long time ago. So, yeah. But the thing is, it's go back to them. But there are so many new games that are just coming down the pipeline.
It's not speaking from experience. You have to dedicate a lot of time to going back.
Yeah.
If you're ever going to go back.
Well, that's it.
Unless you have the fortune of doing this as a job, playing games, then it literally is. You're trying to remember one scene when you're on a moving train that's going 100 miles an hour through the Japanese
countryside.
Yes. Literally. And you're like, oh, that tree. That's it. That tree exists in the past only.
Yeah, you can never go back to that tree. Because there are so many more trees to experience.
Precisely.
Yeah, and it's like, it's a shame because the thing is...
You miss so much good stuff.
Yeah, there's more content out there than one human can ever experience. Even if you just say, pick and choose the stuff you like, there's still more stuff you like than you can possibly,
Also, there's
enjoy.
games you just want to spend more time with than others.
Yeah. I've had a few of those, but, sometimes you could just got to, okay, I've got to cut off because these other games are not getting played.
Yeah, I'm heading towards my 10,000 hours on one game to become
Wow.
an expert in inverted commas. Or just a loser.
You should get yourself a YouTube channel or something. You could do videos on it.
Yeah. That's already a thing.
Right. Yeah, well, links in the description below, or not. Yeah. So GDQ. I mean, the benefit of all the speedrunners is that sometimes you can experience a game that
vicariously.
You can just. If you pick the right category, you can have them where they do the 100% run. They get all the secrets. They got the bits. So they do it as you would play it, but they compress the time down. You get to enjoy the game and see the cutscenes if they're unskippable, of course, and get 100%. And no effort for you. You just sit down, get that, break out the popcorn, and enjoy it.
See, that's the side I really like.
Yeah.
Right. The side I don't really like is the out of bounds skips. I know that's the whole thing. It's a whole category in itself, but it's not why I watch it.
But the thing is, if you go to the speedrunners.net, I think it is the GDQ. Where they do all the record videos are hosted. Well, they're hosted on YouTube, but all the links are there. You can just pick the category you want.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah, and you can watch the ones that you appeal to you more.
Yeah, I mean that's the beauty of the marathon as well.
But again,
you just be like, I don't want to watch this block.
But again, with the things like the out of bounds, it's like someone spent hours just bashing their character against random walls in the hopes that they would clip through, and then discovered a way to do it consistently. And it's like the dedication is just, it blows the mind.
The ones in the Souls games are truly like, what? How did somebody perfect where, and then what direction, and for how long?
Oh yeah, the things where you go out of bounds, and then there's no scenery.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm just navigating blind along this invisible path because the path isn't spawned, and if I do it the wrong, I'm going to fall off, and you're just going to, soft lock the game, and it's like, and I'm through, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
What?
How was this found, and why, and what?
I've seen a couple of speedruns. They've done sort of tricks where, sort of mid thing, they put on a blindfold, and they sort of navigated a section blindfolded, and it, just going on audio cues and muscle memory on joypad things, and it's like, the amount of training that requires, just okay. I'm just going to showboat now, no looking. It's fantastic. So GDQ, check it out.
You can still donate.
Still donate.
The marathon's over, but you can still donate.
You can always donate because
it's an ongoing charity.
Charities.
Charity never ends, man.
They exist continuously. Right. What was next? Was there a next?
Not as far as I know.
Okay. I think we'll have to wrap it up there because we've run out of subject. Unless there was any news you wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, Fist of the North Star coming out on mobile. Pre-register on Google Play. There's a website out there if you can find it. It's a sort of strategy thing, but you get to punch people at high speed. So if people
strategy,
well, not strategy, but it's like it's a mobile. You have it.
Kenshiro walks into.
It's more. You have teams of 5, and they sort of face off against each other, and then you take turns doing moves.
Pummeling people.
Yeah, you take turns pummeling each other, just like in the anime. But yeah, it's got all the moves there, and obviously all the voices. And what? So hopefully that's going to be good. I'll probably play it for about.
That's going to be good.
I'll probably play it for about a week and then go.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah.
There was like it was a couple of years ago, a version. I think it came out on the PS4. And I think it got a Western release.
Yeah. I
and
remember
it was
that one.
3D, and there was
a beat 'em up.
Yeah, and that looked genuinely interesting. Like the old ones from like 10, 15 years ago looked like garbage, but this one looked genuinely interesting, and there was a level of humor in there. So like the character would shout something, and it would come up above their head in like Japanese text, really
Speech
bold,
bubbles,
like comic book typeface. And there was a sequence where I saw literally Kenshiro jumped up, grabbed the speech out of the air, making it a real thing, and like dunked it on the guy, which was madness.
If you do it like if you're like really angry and shouty, the speech bubble becomes spiky, and then you can like stab people with the spikes.
It was insanity. I forget which iteration.
I do remember seeing that one school when it was they were approving it. Yeah, years ago. I remember.
It was like 2 or 3 years ago at most.
Yeah.
I'll try and find some video.
Yeah. Well, if you're watching the video, then enjoy that. If you're not watching the video, you'll have to find it yourself. Tough. Just picture it with vivid clarity, and you're using the power of your imagination.
If you don't know what Fist of North Star is, then check it out.
Yeah, it's an
80s anime from manga.
It's a ridiculous. Imagine Mad Max, but where Max is a martial artist that is so OP that he can punch. If he punches a person fast enough, he disrupts the energy flow in them, and they just literally explode, showering blood and guts everywhere.
Not for kids.
He walks through the sort of broken down landscape of a post-apocalyptic world, just fighting people,
saying nothing.
He doesn't.
The most monosyllabic.
Yeah, he doesn't say much, but
ever.
I do love his catchphrase. Omae, Mou Shindeiru. You are already dead, which is just a classic line. He sort of punches them, walks away, says it, and then they're like, "What?" And then guts everywhere. It's actually got they've actually made a prequel called Fist of the Blue Sky, Soten no Ken, where his grandfather or descendant, who looks exactly like him, because the artist
One Trick Pony.
The artist doesn't have much of an
I can only draw Goku.
The reason was called. I remember he mentioned that there aren't many women in the manga or the anime because he didn't like drawing them. So it was like. Actually, no, I'm confusing another one. But yeah, his ancestor, who looks almost exactly like him.
It's a prequel.
Yeah, it's a prequel essentially. But a lot of the characters who look exactly like their children, essentially it's just.
Well, I mean, it does happen in real life.
Yeah, it's just the Fist of the North Star, but instead set in like the 1920s or 30s. So Hong Kong sort of sort of Shanghai sort of area, sort of thing where it's the same thing, but it's just that all the action you love, but set in the past, and then it eventually leads into the apocalypse and the same thing, but with people with like mohawks and.
Yeah, there's so many heavily influenced characters from Mad Max films in that.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, it is Mad Max with martial arts.
And it came out in the 80s, just like Mad Max.
Yeah,
crazy.
It was the time was right for that sort of thing.
And apparently it's right again because everything's post-apocalyptic now.
Is it? Well, it's because
a lot is post-apocalyptic.
Well, if you
even think about Doom Eternal. That's post-apocalyptic.
Very literally, a very literal apocalypse has happened.
Like Rage 2, anything out of Bethesda, Fallout. But is it post-apocalyptic?
The outer worlds is not Fallout.
No, it's just in space. It's not Fallout. It's the outer world.
It's the outer world. Yes. I think...
And
that wraps it up, really, because
Yeah.
it's an apocalypse. Okay.
More to come next week, next time.
Next time, hopefully we'll have some good stuff for you. We're expecting a couple of games down the pipeline. Fingers crossed we get some reviewable code for that. If not, we will just talk about nonsense like we always do. Any final words?
You're welcome.
And there you have it. There's your podcast.
お前はもう死んでいる。
That was the Digital Suffering Podcast. If you'd like to suffer some more, you can find other episodes on Red Circle, Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple iTunes, Stitcher, Radio Public, and SoundCloud. Please like and subscribe everywhere.